Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Michael Oldroyd Comedy Podcast. This is episode 177. My name is Michael Oldroyd, otherwise known as many names. One being Miguel Old R2D2, aka the Droid, aka Michelangelo, aka Michelangelo Oldroyd, aka many more things. But we're gonna get it started. Very excited to be here. It's Monday, January 30th. It is 2023. I had to check the calendar for that part. 2023, and we're off to the races. What time is it? It's 12:56 Eastern time here in Tampa Bay, Florida. Chilling in my place. And I'm live streaming this thing on YouTube right now. So we'll see if anybody tunes into the YouTube. No pressure, right? No pressure to tune in. If you're by the time this hits your eardrums, maybe it's too late, but maybe you can go back and watch the live stream of it, because I am streaming in 4K for the first time. Anytime I've ever streamed in the past, it's just been on either straight off the iPhone for like a Facebook Live, or straight off the camera on my computer so it's nice to finally have put in the time and effort to figure out how to go in 4K, and we're moving up in the world is what I'd like to say, right? So here we are. We've reached the end of the month. I guess tomorrow's the last day of January 2023, which means we're about 1/12 of the way done with the year. Hopefully, if you had New Year's goals or resolutions, you've been keeping up with that. If you haven't, that's all right. Just start now. Don't wait till next year to have resolution. Just restart it and get her in gear, right? So trying to stay regular here. If you guys haven't noticed, I've done one podcast every single week for the entire year of 2023. I'm staying regular. I'm eating my podcast prunes as an analogy, aka, having regular movements. You know what I mean? Some would call those bowel movements. I call them the Michael Oldroyd Comedy Podcast episodes. And some may say that they're one and the same. Either way, even if you do think that my podcast is fecal matter, at least it still serves the purpose of replenishing the earth with a nice fertilizer. So I am excited to get started, and we're going to go ahead and jump into the first segment, known as What's Going On in the World. All right? Awesome. So we're giving the computer a second right now to stop and save the first, we'll call that an intro there. We're live on YouTube at the moment, but this disposition of me talking right here is for the YouTube followers. I will not be posting this part. I will be cutting it out before I put this on Spotify and, the audio of it all. So now that we have that first intro recorded and saved, we're going to go ahead and start. You guys are getting to see a little bit of, how to actually make the sausage here. I wouldn't call this a tutorial on how to do a podcast, but you're getting to see some, the real-time stuff, So with that said, let's get it going. Let's do the first segment. All right, guys, what's going on in the world? Here we are. Like I said, end of January. Let's jump in. Taliban apparently is taking credit for blowing up a mosque in Afghanistan recently. Nothing funny at all to say about that. Just crazy to know that the Taliban is still relevant. They're still claiming credit. They're still doing things and creating destruction. So that's a sad deal. It is relevant to know that a mosque is, to my knowledge, form of Muslim worship, right? And the Taliban, if I'm not mistaken, is a radical form of Islam. So apparently they don't like how probably peaceful Muslims are doing things. I have to actually check my facts on that. Alexa, is the Taliban a Muslim group?
I don't have an answer for that.
I sound like an idiot right now. There's plenty of troops that have fought overseas. Some of my friends that would know so much more about this than I do. I'm actually drawing a blank on if the Taliban is a Muslim group or not. I know that ISIS is a radical form of Islam, but not a representation of the religious people as a whole. That just the general Muslim, if you will. So I don't want to automatically categorize the Taliban uh, in the same category if I don't know that. So let's move on. There is, speaking of um, religious turmoil, there is turmoil in the Holy Land right now between the Palestinians and the Jews. You guys know that that's been going on for quite a long time, and it's unfortunate to know that that it's still active. It is, but it's good to know the reality of the situation. I don't know a whole lot about it, but there again, that's the if you guys don't know, it's Jews and Muslims there, right? So Palestinians, Palestine is the Holy Land for the Muslims, and Israel is the Holy Land for the Jews, and they are claiming that the same area is the Holy Land. So we're trying to, the ideal state is to live in a peaceful state regardless, and have some peace in the Middle East, but apparently that's not happening at the moment. And I don't really have too much to say about it other than that's an update, right? That's really zooming out and giving you guys a very zoomed out view of kind of what's going on in the world right now. So I'm just going to move on. All right. I feel different. I'm getting comfortable in the saddle doing this with a live recording. I don't know if you guys can see me, but I am wearing some Mitch Hedberg glasses right now to give myself some swag and to feel comfortable embodying who I am, which is the droid, right? With that pizzazz and that swag. So let's move on. Boris Johnson apparently claims that Putin threatened him while he was in office, talking about found so I'm getting some of these just so you know where I get some of the sources. I do an update on Amazon often, and NPR, BBC, Fox. I try to get a wide variety and collection, and anything that interests me or sticks worth talking about in this segment, that's where I go. So what's going on? What else is going on? Obviously, the Ukraine and Russia fight is still transpiring. I met someone over the weekend who works for a cryptocurrency company that was involved with securing communication during Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan last year. And I thought that was really cool. It's like off the grid network. And I thought it was kind of cool because apparently China was trying to intercept a lot of the messaging that was taking place at that time. And, there was some things escalating. Haven't heard much about China recently, other than the fact that they are rescinding their one child policy, or whatever their policy child, their adult. You know how for a while they only let you have one or two kids, and then as a result, a lot of families were aborting their females because they wanted a boy that would carry on the name. Well, in the last year, China's population either decreased by 1 million or it decelerated by 1 million. I'm not sure. I think it was actually a decrease in their population size, probably due to the pandemic and this one child policy. So they are no longer limiting how many children a family can have. So that is news of what's going on in the world. Another update is, as we go into the month of February, Black History Month is going to be beginning here on Wednesday, on February 1st. Black History Month, and unfortunately, so that's a good thing to stop and think about. We talked about Dr. King in the last 2 episodes. Somebody asked me how I'm celebrating Black History Month, and I'm like, the same way I celebrate every month, which is by embodying being a person who is living Dr. King's dream every day, which is to judge people based on the content of their character and not by other things like the color of their skin. And I even take it a step further. I throw in a little bit of I try to not to be self-righteous, by the way, but I try to embody, in addition to that, Jesus's mindset of love, because some people, regardless of their color, regardless of their race, regardless of their religion, regardless of anything else, have been in unfortunate situations, and maybe have had to learn how to have to feed their face or eat. And I don't want to judge anyone, even if their character, even though, okay, this sounds kind of silly. You're not supposed to judge anyone as from like a high level perspective, like, oh, that person is a terrible person. You can judge decisions like that was a poor decision. This is a better path or whatever. But as far as actually judging, so even when I do meet someone where I'm like, man, this person seems to have a lot of integrity, it doesn't mean that I don't try to give love to someone that, maybe he's trying to be a better person and they've had to, they maybe come from more humble beginnings where they literally had to figure out how to survive. It's kind of like in the movie Jean Valjean, right? The one with it's that Christmas movie. Sacha Baron Cohen played a funny character in it. Russell Crowe. How you guys know it? It's the one where Russell Crowe played the law, who was like trying to, and then there was a priest in it who somebody stole food at one point, and the priest forgave him, but the entire town shunned him. They went to jail and they were labeled as a criminal. And the lesson of the story was sometimes the best people may have. Sometimes, first of all, we all have room for progress. This is not about race anymore, but it is intertwined with the system. We all have room for growth, and we should be given the opportunity to be redeemed, to become the best version of ourselves. I think cancel culture does not promote personal growth, as something that someone did 20 years ago, for example. It's like we should learn from those lessons. We should still have a microscope on them, but we shouldn't, 20 years later, it's like that person could be completely, they may be embarrassed of what they did 20 years ago in that incident. And we should be focusing on growing and growing past that, and, making things, making certain standards better, and holding ourselves accountable moving forward so whatever. I guess the point that I'm trying to say is that's kind of how I operate, is by remembering that a Jean Valjean from Les Miserables, Les Miserables. I remembered it's a French title. The guy that was enforcing the law was worse of a person than the guy who had once, gotten in trouble for stealing, and it followed him for his whole life. So we all need to remember, even when we do live Doctor's dream, which is to not see color, basically to try to, I don't want to say something conflicting, but I guess in some way the statements are conflicting. Judge people by the content of their character, yet Jesus would claim not to judge. So it's like, applaud people for the good behavior and the integrity that they show and things, but also be willing to give a loving hand of uplifting and helping grow through growing pains and mistakes and things like that, regardless of one's race, religion, anything else. So I like to combine those two, and that's how I celebrate Black History Month, which is the same way I celebrate every month, which is to try and be a loving person. And some people do a tremendous job of having great integrity. I think that should be rewarded, but at the same time, we should always try to give the benefit of the doubt and be like that priest from Les Miserables that when Jean Valjean tried to steal his silver plates. He ended up giving them to him. He said, "You must need these more," and it kind of was the beginning, in some ways, of him becoming a better person. So when I have a joke about uh, you know uh, I have a joke in my comedy where I say Los Angeles is known as the city of angels, and it's ironic because LA is one of the most selfish places, if not the most selfish place I've ever been. And when I'm out there, I try to live up to the name. And when somebody cuts me off on the freeway, I'm like, "Excuse me, I noticed that you cut me off back there, but I forgive you. Go to heaven." It's like it's a joke. It's a play on Nicolas Cage from the movie City of Angels, of course. However, there's a much deeper undertone to it, and there is truth in a lot of comedy. Not all. Some of the funniest stuff is believable and either true, or it's a version of the truth, or it's close enough to the truth and so ridiculous that it makes the mind tickle when we're wondering, as an audience member, is that even true, that he just claimed that he has a giant mole in the center of his knut sack that has a different type of pubic hair than the normal, so those types of things are sometimes humorous. um, I guess what I'm trying to say is I had my car stolen when I was in LA. I had a catalytic converter stolen from me once that costed me $3,500 to fix. A few years ago when I was in New York, somebody stole my catalytic converter, costed me $3,500 to get the damn thing fixed. I had Mac Mac stolen from me once, which had all my comedy on it when I moved to LA. These are three separate situations. And the highest level of boss status is to not, you know, to say, those people who stole from me are obviously in a much worse situation. And rather than me saying, fuck those people, it's kind of like not I'm not trying to, preach now, but give them love and pray for them. You know what I'm saying? So give them some, I forgive you, go to heaven, like that Nicolas Cage City of Angels highest level boss status knockout punch. But by punch, I mean it like in a loving hug way. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'll say about the Dr. King stuff. And as we go into Black History Month, so I think all that stuff can only help, regardless of whether we're talking about Black History Month or anything else. And sometimes people are committed. Sometimes people are put in jail for things that they didn't do, and society can put a big stigma on it. I don't know if you guys saw uh, I forget what it's called on Netflix, but it was a movie about how America has a bit, the prison system and jail system is an institutionalized money making business, and there's a lot of black people that have been put in jail for things that they didn't even do, right. um, we're seeing we continue to see bullshit things happening, whether it's about race or not. I wasn't there, but what I heard about what happened down in Memphis recently with Tyree Nichols is heartbreaking. Obviously, a black man beat by black officers doesn't matter whether they're white, black, anything else. What matters is it's bullshit. That shouldn't be happening. Human beings should not be beat and killed by police officers. So we need to take a microscope. Not everything's about race. Some things are, but what we do need to focus on is making things better and realizing that we got to go back to Jean Valjean for a second. Sometimes people aren't always guilty of the crimes that they're accused of, and we can't just label people as, oh, that's a bad person. I know we kind of do that as children when we're learning, oh, that's the bad guy, that's the good guy, but it's not always that simple. So I noticed when I was a kid and I was a class clown, and I was always getting on detention. I noticed that when I was more of a rambunctious, wild character, that the teachers were quicker to give me a detention than the kids who never spoke out, and they were like, really, you could tell their parents were very strict. And not saying that that's the only reason that someone wouldn't get in trouble, but I'm just giving you guys an example so it's clear and it makes sense. What I'm saying is, people, when they start to get a criminal record, society starts to make it easier for them to get more things on their record, whether or not they may even be guilty of certain things. So people can be cast typed in life, I guess you could say, the way an actor gets cast typed in movies. And we need to remember again to keep an open mind and not let fear rule us. So, yeah, that's enough preaching for today, but it is what's going on in the world. And I did want to mention that and talk about the importance of those two things as we enter Black History Month and as we find out, terrible things like this beating of Tyree Nichols down in Memphis. So, anyway, to turn over the page on a new note, we do have the stock market has been going up the last few weeks. I know that I talked about that before, and let's see where it's at today, because I feel like it's been going so well that like a day like today is something where it would start to go down again, because it's like a girl who the stock market is like a female, if you're from the perspective of a heterosexual man, playing hard to get with you. As soon as you start to chase, boom, disappears, right? You got to play it cool. You got to know when it's like poker. You got to know when to hold, when to fold, when to run, and when to walk away. They say it's an old school saying. So when the stock market's in green, that's when everyone wants to buy, and boom, that's when it starts to drop, right? As soon as you start to chase, boom, and vice versa. As soon as you think, fuck, I got to sell, as soon as you sell, that's when it starts to go back up. So the stock market likes to play hard to get with us, guys, and you got to be one step ahead. So yes, the stocks are down today. Everything is it's not terribly down, but they're down-ish, right? S&P is down negative 29 points at the moment. So, that's not too bad. Whatever. So, the Fed might be raising interest rates again here soon. So I think that's something worth noting. Be ready for it. Obviously. Damn it. My fucking YouTube, excuse my language, my YouTube camera died. So bear with me for a second. I see that someone's tuned in. So I'm going to have to pause this for a second while I fix this camera. Whoever that is, how you doing? Hope you're doing well. The camera is running, or the audio feed is working right now, but the camera isn't. So I'm going to have to come over here and fix this. Bear with me. Let's see what we can do. I'm going to keep talking so that it doesn't get boring. Okay, so bear with me. Getting the audio feed back on. All right. Hopefully you guys. All right. Cool. Awesome. Good. Great. Grand. Wonderful. No yelling on the bus. I wish I could remember Sacha Baron Cohen's character, because he was very funny in that movie, Les Miserables. And I wish I could do an impression of him. I'm going to have to watch that next time so I can actually make this update somewhat humorous. The things that I've been talking about thus far really aren't that funny, but they are about what's going on in the world, and they are relevant. So, all right, we're going to start the podcast back up, and we're going to keep it moving. I hope that my camera stays on. So I was talking about how the Fed might be raising interest rates soon, and that'll affect the stock market. Obviously, if their interest rates go up, the stock market's going to go down. And fuck, if the Fed raises the interest rates, the stocks are going to go down. And if the Fed does not raise them, then the stock market will go up. So for anyone that is interested in knowing certain triggers that cause markets to shift, I mean, as long as there's no other big news things going on, and that's the only news update that comes out that day, that's most likely going to be what transpires. So you can, if you really want to make money, and you think in these terms, you set triggers for news. You set a calendar update for when the Fed announces whether or not, and as soon as they make the announcement, you can hop on that. It's a short term kind of like wave. It'll be a short, like a day long thing. Anyway, that's important stuff. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, if the Fed raises interest rates, it means that we're still having room to improve on our inflation problem. If they don't raise the rates, then it is a sign that that inflation is being effectively combated, and that maybe we're on a track towards success there, and we've begun the descent of the hill, if you will. So yeah, that's a little bit. Did we get a new Speaker of the House yet? I know that they were making jokes everywhere about the 14 million attempts at getting a new Speaker of the House. I actually didn't know. I'm not going to ask Alexa right now just because I don't feel like it. Alexa, did we get a Speaker of the House yet?
From fandom.com. The Speaker is second in the United States.
Alexa, stop. See, I hate that. I just want a fucking answer now. You know what I'm saying? The clock is ticking. What a fucking intern. You know what I'm saying? See how reliant I am on technology. We got to be careful with that, guys, because at some point, if we stop being able to do our own research and everything is just done through Google search engines and Alexa, then we're no longer. Then we're at the whim of the intelligence of the AI, essentially, and whatever is out there in the ether. So it's important to be aware of how reliant we are and where our dependence is and where our independence is as individuals, as a company, as a country, as football organization. You know what I mean? You want to know where your strengths and weaknesses are. All right. So anyway, I hope that the camera is still running, and it looks like it is. That's wonderful. We got a couple people tuned in. How you doing? Makes me excited to have you. Anyway, what else? Avatar. Apparently, it's still in theaters. That's exciting, right? Still going. Apparently, it's tearing it up. I'm too cheap to have gone to the cinema, if you will, to check it out, but I am intrigued and excited. I hear that it's water is a big component of the flick, and I think that it can be metaphors for what's going on in the world, and sustainability of life on Earth here, and cherishing our nutrients versus depleting our resources and just shitting everywhere with diesel fuel and destroying our atmosphere and all that. So excited to see what they put out there, and when it goes to whatever streaming service it's going to be on, I'm excited to see that Black Panther will be coming to theater soon. It was on a commercial during the football games this weekend that it said Black Panther streaming on Disney Plus soon. It didn't give us a date, and I'm gonna make a bet, guys. I'm gonna make a bet that it comes out on February 1st, the first day of Black History Month. I just have a feeling. I have a hunch. And we'll talk about that. Speaking of all that, Michael B. Jordan, right? This all ties together. Hosted SNL last week, and we'll talk about that when we do the Comedy World update, though. Anyway, so we'll talk about the NFL. We'll talk a little bit about Gasparilla, and then we'll move on to what's going on in the comedy world. So the NFL games this weekend, Niners versus who did they lose to? The Eagles in Philly. And then later that night, last night, was the AFC Championship game, the Chiefs versus the Bang Daddies, right? Do you think any of the Cincinnati players have bangs? Huh? Just some nice little bangs there for you. That's a little Bengals joke. A little hairdo. Speaking of hair, I need to get my hair cut. Potentially, I'm going to donate to Locks of Love here soon. So anyway, great game last night. The Niners game was a diarrhea. It was unfortunate, when Purdy got hurt, it just doesn't make it too easy to come from that. And it's already a big enough game. You throw in a third string guy. Purdy, is a second string guy who's come and earned the starting spot. And then the third string guy gets bumped up to second string. And, that's who I'm talking about. I don't even know his name, but it's just tough to come in there with no experience in such a large magnitude game. So it was unfortunate to see the Niners go down. As a original Niners lover, I can't claim to. I'm not the same fan of the Niners as I was when I was a kid. I think if you guys have listened to my podcasts, you're probably sick of me talking about all this. So I'm going to keep the NFL segment short. Let's just say, congratulations to the Eagles. It was ironic that Jeremy Maclin, my college teammate, played for both the Eagles and the Chiefs, and that's who's going to be in the Super Bowl. So that's that's kind of fun. I feel like when you think back to the history of America, again going back to Black History Month, and this is something a little bit different, but Chiefs and Eagles, right? If you think about that, the bald eagle is the symbol of the United States of America. They're protected by federal law, and it's ironic that the symbol of America, a bald eagle, is playing the original Native American bosses, if you will, right? So Chief Kingdom, it's represent. Chief Executive Officer means chief. Or CEO is Chief Executive Officer. C-suite are the chiefs, or the high-level roles in most companies. So chief, it derives from the Native American origin of those that would wear the headdress and be the boss of the tribe. So it's going to be the Eagles versus the Chiefs in Super Bowl. I believe it's 57. I forget where they're playing. It's going to be in 2 weeks, pretty sure. Maybe the Pro Bowl's next weekend, but they're going to have a week off, and then they're gonna go for it. So shout out to Mahomes, who played on an injured, sprained ankle and just got it done. It takes a warrior to be able to kick ass like that. He's humble, he's likable. You can't really fault Mahomes for really anything, and it's hard not to like the guy. I think he's more likable than Joe Burrow. I respect Joe. He's done some amazing things, but he's just I don't see Mahomes wearing feathered outfits like Cam Newton and Joe Burrow. Mahomes he's a humble dude, so he's more humble than I am. What can I say? I hate to admit it, but sometimes I put out the swag. You know what I mean? Jeremy Maclin swag. You know what I mean? Joe Burrow swag. But Mahomes is just a humble dude. He, thank God, that was the first thing that came out of his mouth in the post-game interview. You can't not love just a kind, humble dude like that, and I'm looking forward to him healing, and I want to see the Chiefs win the Super Bowl. The Chiefs have some loyal fans. I know when the Chiefs were terrible for decades, there's a couple people that I know that just stuck with them, and they were just die hard, and those are the ones that I get excited for. Those people, that have been through the thick and the thin, and now they're getting to have some of the glory days and harvest the crops, if you will, of the greatness that KC has during this time, and empires rise and fall. So the Chiefs aren't going to be good forever. One injury in an entire program can kind of be finished sometimes, and that can happen at any point in this game. So it'll be great to see if the Chiefs can capitalize. You never know if you'll go back, to the Super Bowl. So it'd be great to see them capitalize on this and bring another one to the old KC. So with that said, do you guys want to hear some inside scoop on Giselle and Tom Brady? Because I living here in Tampa, you meet people that know things or claim to know things. I you know what? I don't want to be spreading rumors on a podcast, but I'll just say this. uh, somebody told me very confident that they know why Tom Brady and Giselle got a divorce, and it was something that I would never have guessed. And it makes a whole lot of sense. So that's all I'm going to say, because it's not my place to be a rumor spreader or a TMZ. I'm not trying to turn into a TMZ. And plus, if I ever play football again, I don't want Tom Brady to go, I heard what you said about me on your podcast, and spreading rumors, or me and my wife, or my wife. I'm not saying what it was or was not, right? So, still protecting the sanctity of, just in case I play again. And by the way, I know it may sound ridiculous to those of you who don't know me, or what I can do and what I have done on the football field, but the sky is the limit. The only limitations that you may have in your mind of me are actually limitations that you have of yourself. So let me absolve you of that and say that I believe in you, and I believe that anything is possible for any of us. So limits do not exist except in our own minds. Fears like limits are often just illusions, as Michael Jordan would say, to quote the GOAT of basketball. And was I going to say anything else about that? Yes. To give you an example of my mindset, I once matched with a girl on Bumble that worked for Kate Beckinsale. She was her assistant years ago when I was living in LA. And I remember I said, I know this may sound weird, but even though Kate Beckinsale is married, I would rather not have any history with you. Potentially, I'm going to have to decline from the state just in case Kate Beckinsale is ever single again. I just wouldn't want to have been involved with one of her employees. And the girl's like, you sound fucking crazy. But guess what? Matt Rife was hooking up with Kate Beckinsale after she got a divorce. And I know that if Kate Beckinsale met me, she'd be more attracted to me than Matt Rife. So, and not to put Matt Rife down, not to put Matt Rife down. It has nothing to do with Matt Rife. I guess it kind of does, but I no hate or shade on him. What I'm saying is, if I was living in LA and I had met Kate Beckinsale, I think that I would have had a chance, and I still may have a chance with her. I don't know what she's up to at the moment, but I'm more interested in her than I would be in someone like Giselle after what I found out. And that's all I'll say. That's all I'll say. All right. So Gasparilla, speaking of the Buccaneers and Pirates, Gasparilla happened on Saturday. So for those of you who don't know what Gasparilla is the annual pirate festival that happens in Tampa Bay every year, usually in January, where everyone dresses up like pirates. Millions of people come to Tampa to celebrate. There's a parade. There's a giant ship that comes down to the city, and the mayor gives the keys to the pirate that comes in and storms the city, and the city, and they call it the invasion. And then there's a giant parade, and everyone goes crazy, and people are drinking alcohol in front of cops, open container, just wild. Like, people are going crazy. There's, people throwing beads. It's like Mardi Gras, except it's themed for pirates. And luckily this year was warmer than last year. I went for a little bit. I also made a little bit of money. I drive for Uber on the side sometimes, not trying to drop any panties out there with that exciting information. But I was able to make a little bit of money because rates were extremely skyrocketing. And it was nice. It was cool to have some fun. Smoked a cigar out there on Bayshore Ave, where it is next to the ocean, and just kind of enjoyed the people watching. And then I had enough. I was there last year in the cold. It was warmer this year, and I had enough. So I was able to go have some fun. Then I did 2 shows, which I'll talk about later in the comedy section. So Gasparilla, it's funny because I was catching up with my ex-girlfriend, Jessica, who's been a guest on this show several times last week. And I said, hey, I don't know if you knew, but Gasparilla is this weekend. She goes, ooh, I want to go to Gasparilla. I go, well, get a flight and come down then. And she goes, what's Gasparilla? So continued humor rolls out of Jessica's existence. She reminds me of Georgette from I Love Lucy. I think that was the name of the show. Somebody called her Georgette. An older comedian heard her voice once, and was really funny and kind of endearing and like an interesting analysis. So anyway, that's what's been going on in the world from my awareness. I'm sure there's plenty of other things. Hopefully, the mass shootings that have been happening in the last couple of weeks have slowed down, for goodness sakes. Uh, that is what I'll say for now. And I'm going to move on now to what's going on in the comedy world. All right. So, for the one person who's watching me on live stream, right now I'm just saving this part of the episode. Uh, I am saving it so that it's good to go, and then I move on to the next segment. That's kind of how I do this. So this conversation I'm having right now will not be uh, what's the word in the actual Spotify podcast, but right about now the music will be playing, and then I'm going to be tuning right in. So here we go. All right, guys. So what's going on in the comedy world, huh? All right. Well, Michael B. Jordan hosted Saturday Night Live on Saturday. If you don't know who he is, he's the star of Creed. I think that was like his breakout role. That's when I found out about him, when he played in the movie with Sylvester Stallone a handful of years now. The first Creed, which is he plays the son of Apollo Creed, who was his first nemesis slash friend, became his friend. Sometimes you befriend your enemies, and hey, I think Jesus would be proud of that, by the way. So either way, it's a great story. Michael Sylvester Stallone, by the way, that's his first name, just in case you guys didn't know. He and by the way, Tom Brady's middle name is Patrick. So Patrick Mahomes, Patrick Brady, Thomas Edward Patrick Brady, 4 names to be exact. There's a similarity. There's a similar vibe there, a little Irish Catholic-esque plus, maybe, Mahomes is mixed. He kind of looks like he could be Native American, but I have a feeling that he's part African American and Irish Catholic. So anyway, Irish Catholic, white ginger with freckles. You know what I mean? Maybe that's why his wife looks like a ginger, kind of. I think, is her hair blonde or a little red? I'm not sure. Either way, she did not spray the peasants with champagne this year in the cold. It was cold in KC last night. I looked up the temperature. I think it was 18 degrees. And I was glad to see that she didn't spray the peasants from the queen box or the box seats. I don't think she did that on purpose last year. I think she was just celebrating and drunk and didn't realize what she did was like a crime, essentially. But either way, that I'm talking about football when I should be talking about what's going on in the comedy world. So Michael B. Jordan hosted. Great monologue. I liked it. Unique outfit. First sketch was topical about the classified document search. That was fun. Some of the stuff that stood out to me, the Southwest Airlines sketch was fun. The State Farm commercial, hilarious. Maybe my favorite one. Dominican sketch was fun. Let's see here. Street Fighter, fun. Street Fighter sketch. You guys have to watch these to know what I'm talking about. Weekend update, always good to know what's going on. That they usually open with a topical sketch, which is a sketch of what's going on in the world that week, kind of like my what's going on in the comedy world thing. And then during weekend update, they do jokes on what's going on in the world. So that's kind of like my first segment ish, even though I didn't really make it too funny lately because I've been just kind of giving, diarrhea of my thoughts out there. Sometimes humor gets extracted from it, and sometimes it's a nice update, hopefully, if nothing else. So male confidence seminar, that was funny, appreciated that. Michael B. Jordan playing the alpha male on that sketch, and then the stripper sketch with the pregnant girlfriend, humorous. So it was cool to see him do comedy. Obviously, he's the star of he was one of the stars of the original Black Panther. I'm not sure if he made it in the second one because I haven't seen it yet. Wouldn't be surprised if he's in it though. Oh no, he died at the end of the first one. He was the nemesis of T'Challa. 2 different schools of thought there, but still hard not to like his character, even though he was the villain in that first one. It was I like T'Challa better, because I believe love conquers all, and he was more of a Mufasa or Simba type king um, than Scar. Michael B. Jordan's character, I could relate to Scar a little bit. However, I think he was more likable than Scar in the Black Panther. So anyway, that's what I'll say about that. I did a quick Google search to see which shows are currently trending, just to act like I'm doing something for this segment. So apparently, some comedy shows that are in today's Google search of trending comedy shows: The White Lotus, Ginny in Georgia. Speaking of Georgia, Georgette. I was in Georgia recently. Atlanta Falcons, awesome. The next one, Ted Lasso. We've all heard of that. It's got a ton of awards over the years. Here's one, Letterkenny. Haven't heard of it. Abbott Elementary. Wednesday is one, and then Only Murders in the Building. Not sure what that is, but those are the shows that came up. And that last one reminds me of a movie that I recently saw with Edward Norton that was kind of funny, where he plays this really rich billionaire who has this like murder mystery case to solve at his mansion. A bunch of people come in, and essentially, I don't want to give away the ending, but uh, it was fun. It was fun. Edward Norton always does good work. Can't fault him. And he played. There's some humor in this flick. Was there anybody else big in it? Yes. And for some reason, I'm drawing a blank. I feel like it was not Daniel. It was Daniel Craig. Yeah, Daniel Craig plays a quirky dude in it. And if you guys, I think it's on Netflix. So if you type in Edward Norton on Netflix and check out the one with Daniel Craig, you guys will get a kick out of it if you haven't seen it. Another update in the comedy world. Apparently, Roxanne is making a comeback. So the name of it is Cancel This. I guess Fox put out a marketing campaign during the NFC Championship game yesterday. It'll be the first stand-up comedy special she's done since 2006. So that kind of ties back to my whole cancel culture comment earlier. I believe that people should be able to. I believe in redemption and people becoming better and learning from their mistakes, as long as it's something that's just not, what Harvey Weinstein did. That's really. I think the only person that can really forgive him for what he did is God. That stuff is pretty. It's going to be a hard time anyone kind of forgiving someone for doing the stuff that he did. But smaller infractions, like whatever. What I'm trying to say is I believe in redemption and us growing and learning from our mistakes, rather than just saying, hey, rather than just casting stones. He who cast the first stone be without sin, right? That's like an old thing in the Bible. Let's not judge, but let's grow from these things. If you're going to try and cancel someone, you better be ready to cancel yourself out for your mistakes as well. So let's grow from these things. Let's become better. When I hear about mistakes that someone has made, let me do an introspective lens and make sure that I'm kind of growing and learning and having conversations and all that, because that's, I think, what's going to make society better, rather than everyone being afraid and living in this constant state of fear. Like, oh, is someone going to misinterpret something that I say, or is someone going to be offended, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? So is someone going to cancel me based on a tweet from 5 years ago? I stopped caring about all that stuff, and I'm not living in fear. I'm trying to grow. I'm trying to be the best person I can be. And I think that's what you really ultimately, that's all you can do these days. And I think it's society seems to be less irritated as we were a few years ago. 2020 was a hard year, and we seem to be growing and not going back to normal in a bad way, but kind of, shitting out the bad and hopefully moving forward and building on top of. That's my hope for the future, is that things go back to normal in the good ways, but we grow from the shit. The pain sometimes is weakness leaving the body. So hopefully pain that we experienced as a society in 2020 and around that is weakness leaving society, right? So all right, so that's what I've got going on in the comedy world. The next segment is what's going on in the world. All right, guys. So right now that's saving. That segment is saving. People on YouTube, what's up? This talking right now will not be in the podcast. But as you can maybe hypothesize, I am taking a quick break here. Feel free to talk in the window if you want. Streaming from Florida, having a good time uh, doing this podcast. It's first time streaming live in a long time, and it's the first time ever streaming live in 4K and through a professional microphone. So hopefully your sound and sight is good. I feel like the lighting is aight. We got reflection from the sun coming in. This is daylight, natural daylight coming in down here in Florida through my window. I could feel like I could get a reflector over here to get some light on this side of me. I'm just looking at myself right now, and the camera just went out as I literally am talking about it. So that's always good to know. Glad that I saw that happen in real time. Sounds like you guys can probably still hear me. I'm going to try to fix the camera really quick as before I start my next segment. My camera might have overheated. I'm streaming from an Sony Alpha 6300 4K camera, and my legs are sore. I went for a run yesterday, so my legs are a little sore. Not that you guys give two shits, but that is a little bit about where we are. So let's see how this looks. Are we able to? It looks like the live streaming component of the camera is no longer working. So shucks. I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish the podcast video portion, but because I love you guys and you're here, as long as there's anyone tuned in, I will continue the audio portion. Just give me a second. Let's talk to each other. If anyone has anything to say, feel free to put it in the chat box. If you want to remain anonymous, you can absolutely do that. Just give me a second while I gather myself for this next segment. I remember I saw Louis C.K. Do a comedy show one time at the Fox in St. Louis. And I remember after he finished, he went out before doing an encore. And I remember my seats were so close to the stage that I could see backstage. And he looked exhausted afterwards. And I remember he didn't show that to the audience, but I could see it because I was so close. And I found it fascinating. And it made me like him more because I'm like, wow, he's really giving us everything he has. He like bent over and took like a few deep breaths and then like stood up, got his posture right, and walked back out and did an encore. So I thought that was pretty cool. And by the way, Louis C.K. is also, his career is not done, guys. So, he's another example of someone that I hope learns from his mistakes, and that we've all learned from him. I've learned from him, as a comedian and as a off the stage person. I've learned from him, there's a lot. I don't need to go into it right now, but I've learned, so, okay, cool. How we doing? Anybody? Looks like we got one person who's still on. I wonder if the person who's still on is actually watching, or if they forgot that they're tuned in to the live recording of the Michael Oldroyd comedy podcast. By the way, whoever that is, do you like my glasses? All right, here we go. Let's do this. So we're going to talk about what's going on in Michael Oldroyd's comedy world. That is the next segment. You guys ready? Here we go. All right. Well, what is going on in Michael Oldroyd's comedy world? Exciting that we made it here to the third segment. Wanted to let you guys know that the Marriott Trivia Night comedy was fun last week. Had a good time. Come on out next time we do it. I think it's going to be next Tuesday. We're not going to have one this week. But that's the Marriott update. Love working with them. Great company. They've been good to me, and I'm very appreciative of the opportunity. It's a prime location right down there where the heart of Gasparilla was. I wasn't doing anything during Gasparilla with them, but that's to show you right there on the water where Tom Brady basically threw the Super Bowl trophy when the Bucs won a few years ago. uh, to whoever he threw it to, and they caught it. Thank goodness, right? Not sure how I felt about that, by the way. Not the Vince Lombardi Trophy is for nobody to risk. Not even the QB, in my opinion. It's too the sanctity of that trophy is too pure and valuable, that I don't think anyone should ever disrespect it in any way. And I know he didn't mean disrespect, so I'm not hating, but it's not something I would have done. Does that make sense? All right. So anyway, we're talking about what's going on in my comedy world. I did a show at a strip club last week. First time I've ever done a comedy show at a strip club. First time I've been to a strip club in a really long time. And after being in there, I was immediately reminded of why I don't go to strip clubs. I feel like every breath that you take in there, they allow smoking in there. So I feel like every breath I took in there, I feel like was taking a year off my life. It took me like 3 days to recover from just being in there. Uh, you know, it was doing comedy in the strip club was the most difficult possible environment to do comedy in. Um, I arrived. I'm glad I did it, by the way, because everyone needs to get in the batting cages like Happy Gilmore every once in a while and get the shit beat out of you. Because 364 more days before hockey tryouts. Am I right? Speaking of that, the Bruins were recently down here playing the Lightning, and I thought about Happy Gilmore because Adam Sandler in Happy Gilmore was wearing a Bruins jersey. If you guys remember, and he's not a golfer, he was a hockey player, right? So anyway, the strip club comedy, right? I get there, and the comedians that went on before me, I watched them literally line up and just nosedive and do belly flops on concrete. I would say at one point before I even went up, there was a comedian who seemed like a pretty good comedian, by the way. He had a good vibe to him and everything. Literally, there was like 7 strippers sitting in a table near the front where the seats are toward the stage, and they were all yelling in a conversation to each other in a different language, by the way. They were speaking Spanish, and it was so loud. It was like they were intentionally talking over him, knowing he was on stage, so that they could hear each other in their conversations. It reminded me of when I did comedy in Mexico on vacation, and there was a group of local workers that were heckling me in Spanish and also having a loud conversation amongst themselves, which was very difficult. In fact, that was the night that Jessica broke up with me. I think after that set, she's like, I've had enough of this comedy journey, which is interesting. Usually people shouldn't cut you at your lowest, right? But that was a low night in the world of comedy, and it was the reality of how bad it can be at times. And the strip club reminded me of that. However, 16 years in comedy and a headliner, all the shows that I've done, it doesn't phase me anymore to have, a show like that. If anything, it makes me stronger and tougher. And it was cool to see, it was cool to have the opportunity to belly flop in front of a bunch of strippers. By the time I got on stage, it was later in the night. Nobody wanted to see this comedy show anymore. I think at one point somebody interrupted me over the loud mic and said, strip. And that was the only thing that the audience reacted to positively. So I guess me and Michael B. Jordan have something in common, referring to his stripper sketch, that apparently people wanted me to strip rather than me do comedy that night. So I did not, by the way. And there was one cute stripper that I was like hoping would like watch my set. She was too focused on trying to make money, didn't pay any attention. And maybe it's because I didn't pay attention to her when she was dancing on stage, or at least I didn't make it seem like it. I didn't go up there and toss ones like, everyone else. So maybe it was like her karma or her way of getting back to me. You know what I mean? I guess it's a quid pro quo. I didn't know that, but apparently That's how it felt. And, I felt like I was just like speaking into the ether. I feel like me talking to virtually nobody right now was more effective than doing comedy at a strip club. I think people they loathed, I think the guys in the strip club loathed that the people were taking up time from being able to see naked girls, if that makes sense. It was like white noise happening to fill space in the void in between when women would go up and dance. And we went, we'd do our comedy on the stage where the women would do that. So, um, you know, definitely tougher for it, and glad I did it. And then Friday and Saturday I had shows all weekend. So Friday night did a show, and then Saturday did two shows. Did all three of those shows at Coconuts in St. Pete Beach. Trevor Glassman was out there with me on Saturday. Saturday night, full house, packed room. The second show was that night. It was fun overall, except one woman she was a nice lady. She intended well. I met her before the show, and she was so excited, and she just would not stop yelling out, like literally every line that I would say, whether it was a question or not, she would scream something. So she was drunk and way too excited, and it kind of, luckily we still, I made it work, but it was an unusable tape, if that makes sense, right? Because I filmed the performance in 4K, trying to get my 4K game up, if you will, and all that does is just, now it's just gigabytes used with nothing that I can use it for, except maybe short reel clips that I put on Instagram and Facebook reels here and there, and YouTube shorts. I might be able to cut something up and maybe get some kind of a gem, maybe a pearl inside of the clam there, no pun intended. So yeah, that was the week of comedy. For this week coming up, Wednesday, I'm flying to New York in the morning. So for any of my New York City peeps, I'll be out there for 5 days. We can reconnect, have coffee, have a hot dog, high five each other. We live in such a virtual world that it's really not that much different, other than be like, oh yeah, you have a pimple. Cool. You have a pimple right now. How's everything else since we communicated over the phone the other day? You know what I mean? So, but it'll be good to reconnect with the city and kind of face that. I had I left New York because of the craziness of the pandemic. And after having been locked in my apartment for the first 90 days of hell there, got out and had enough of it for a while. But I think it's good to reconnect and kind of wash away some of that mess there, and to see people and see the comedy scene, reconnect, do some spots, do some shows, hang out, go to the Comedy Cellar. I'll be in Soho for anyone, which is right next to the Comedy Cellar there. So I'll be staying in Soho, and that'll be that. Yeah, that's my favorite part of New York. So ho 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 ho. Anyway, so that's that. That's what we've got coming up this week, and that is my update as far as what is going on in my comedy world. All right, so for whoever is still watching me on the YouTube live stream, it looks like my camera turned off again. This part will not be in the podcast, but I am going to try and fix that for this final segment. That is what's going on in my world. So just bear with me while I do this. It feels like my camera is pretty hot. I'm sure it's overheating from all this live streaming. If I had an ice cube, I would put it on the camera right now, but I don't. So, it is what it is, right? All right. So there's that angle. Looks like it's working. Awesome. Tremendous. Good. Great. Grand. Wonderful. No yelling on the bus. All right. So I'm going to just wrap this up by talking about what's going on in my world, and then we can call it a day. How about that, right? And then I'll excrete this podcast into the universe. All right. So let's get her done, baby. All right, what's going on in my world? Like I said, Gasparilla happened over the weekend. I talked about the shows that I did. Are there any shows to shout out this week? I'll just be in New York. Instagram, DM me if you want to know where I'm performing, if you're going to be in New York or if you're already there. I don't have my shows posted at the moment, but I will probably do story updates on my Instagram story when I'm doing shows, and then I'll take it from there. But that's what that's the update. So my Instagram is at the droid, THEDROYD, the droid. Once again, get a pen, THEDROYD. That's the same handle that I have everywhere because I am the droid, and I am not the droid that the Empire is looking for, but I am the droid that you are looking for, my friends. And if you're not a Star Wars fan, that you don't know what I'm talking about. So I forgive me. Um, but yeah, anyway. Uh, Last thing I'll say, the Clean Fuels Conference. I guess there was a conference here in Tampa this week. I met a couple people that were part of this clean energy conference, and I thought it was very interesting. I talked about the movie Avatar earlier. I think it all intertwines with that and sustainability. And I learned about these different fuels that have all natural products in them, like corn oil and things like that. Like I learned a little bit about diesel fuel and jet engine fuel and gasoline and all these things, and it was all really interesting. I'll be honest, and it was intriguing to hear that obviously the Biden administration is trying to go green and they're trying to push for electric and all these things. And, I think anyone who has a brain can realize that, industries and money and all these things impact a lot of the decisions that get made. So it's not like, anyone can snap their fingers and say all cars tomorrow have to be on electric. You just can't move that quick. It would cause an economic dent, just the way that like the pandemic you just can't like shut the power off like that quickly. So one of the things that they're trying to do is we transition to an electric world, or alternate energies, instead of depending on oil essentially for power. Is they're making reusable and recycled fuels even for these big diesel trucks, so the diesel trucks can continue. And there's different points of view. I had a few different people that I met. Some of them think it's great how these new fuels are coming out, and then some of them are like it's not practical and it takes more energy to make this reusable fuel, that the net impact on the environment is it's not getting, it doesn't do anything for it overall. It just looks like it on paper, you know. So those are all um, it's all food for thought. You know what I mean? Speaking of corn, food for thought. Chiefs, Native Americans. Uh, yeah, okay. Just doing a little free word association here. Anyway, I am part of Native American, so I can say things, huh? I can say things, part Filipino, part Asian, Caucasian, and part Native American, as well as other things. And I think that it's nice to be vaccinated toward doing racial talk as a result. So 23andMe, heyo, right? I told you guys that I met a family member through 23andMe a couple weeks ago, so that was cool. Anyway, what do we want to talk about last? We want to talk about one last thing. I don't know why I found this interesting, but it happened yesterday. I was at Walmart on my way home, and I got some groceries. And while I was in the grocery section, I was looking for those little bags that you throw like loose, like one or two tomatoes in, and hopefully it has the scan code or the number that you can look up, and then they weigh it. So I was looking for those bags because I was going to get like an apple or something. And By the way, it was $1.86 for this one apple. Who would ever Apple? Has anyone ever bought an apple that cost $2? Because I remember thinking this is an expensive apple. Anyway, um, you think that apple is expensive? Try going to the Big Apple. Am I right? All right. No, I was looking for bags, and there was a guy who was working in that section who works for Walmart, and he had on his transportable apparatus that he was pushing around, there was a roll of bags on there, and I went to grab one, and he said, "You can't have one of those. You got go get one from the go get one from the place," and he pointed where the bags were. So his was the first one that I happened to see, right? And I immediately thought it was hilarious because I've never, like, if his boss was there, he would have shunned him and reprimanded him for saying that to a customer because it's the same bag, and he was being, you don't like it's the same bag. He has a ton of them, and his job is to, help Walmart, help customers and things like that. So I was not in a good mood at the moment, and I think I said something not bad. I wasn't mean, but I said something like, "Oh, what's the difference?" Um, rather than just saying, "Okay," because I was kind of annoyed because it was a further walk, and it's like, dude, what? Okay, what? Right? So I was like, "What's the difference?" And he's like, "You don't see me coming over to your cart and taking things out of your cart and putting them back." And when he said that, naturally, I was like, okay, if I was undercover boss right now, I'd have to show this man a little bit of love because this behavior is not acceptable for customers. I've worked in customer service, right? But I happened to not be in a good mood, and I had to stop myself. I had to stop myself from snapping back, and I said, "All right, man, you know what? Whatever is what I said," and I grabbed the bag from the new place. I wasn't going to belittle this person, and kind of, I wasn't going to, you know what I mean? He was hoarding, like, he was hoarding his supplies that are for Walmart customers, right? As if I'm taking from his personal belongings. I'd never seen someone do that before, and it didn't take that much strength. I just knew, what? Don't belittle. He's trying. I guess he's not trying that. He's kind of trying. He's got a job and he's working, and I respect that. But there needs to be some oversight with this type of hoarding of stuff. So I didn't say anything. I didn't want to argue with him because again, I that would be mean of me, to be honest. I mean, if he worked at a Dolce and Gabbana and he was talking to me that way, or something like that, I would have maybe let him have it, right? But he's a Walmart employee and he's trying, and I could tell that he really was. If you have to hoard your Walmart supplies that are for customers, and that's your mindset, I can't imagine what his house looks like hoarding wise. He has to be a hoarder, right? It would have been funny to say, "Are you must be a hoarder," right? As my response as I walk away, but that again, that's mean. So let's go back to the Jean Valjean thing, right? From the very beginning of this podcast. If you guys remember, I was talking about Les Miserables, and I think that it was a good moment in time to, you know, literally, literally pull the Jean Valjean like priest thing where he gave him the silverware. So I gave him his plastic bag, and I didn't win the argument. I didn't allow my ego to pull me into arguing with someone that was acting the behavior was foolish, right? So I didn't give in to that. I allowed him to have the bag, and I feel good. I let him win that for his own, whatever you want to call it. You know what I'm saying? And I feel good about it. I feel like I did the higher level, I forgive you, go to heaven type thing. You know what I mean? I didn't, and I thought about saying it, but I didn't say it because that would have come off condescending, even if I meant it genuinely. Um, so there's something about that phrase that, needs to be said in true, genuine nature, or in funny jest, right? Where it's going to be funny for an audience. But saying that to him would have come off condescending, and I didn't want to come off condescending, is what I'm trying to say. So I don't know why I told you guys all that, other than it was like a recent story of something that, um, it didn't quite get under my skin, but it was like a scratch, like it was like, oh, this is annoying, um, and God bless the guy. You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to say, right? It all ties back to that whole Martin Luther King, Jesus conversation, the very beginning of the episode. I pray that he grows, and he's wherever he was in his life before this, that he's moving, he's learning, and he's growing, and he's getting better, and that he overcomes his hoarding complex through this growth, and that he learns that it's not only disrespectful to talk to customers that way, it's just not nice to talk to human beings that way. So, I give him a genuine prayer, and we'll end with the Les Miserables mindset. You know what I mean? I hope that makes sense and it's clear. But if it's not, eh, you're not. Nobody's here to ask me for clarification, and I don't know what would need to be clarified. So that's all I can say, guys. I appreciate you for tuning in to the Michael Oldroyd Comedy Podcast as we gave this 4K live stream on YouTube a try. Again, at the Droid, THEDROYD, on all platforms. I hope you guys have a great week. Thanks for tuning in. God bless you, and go to heaven, huh? All right. So whoever is stuck around on the live stream, thank you. That was the end of the podcast. I am going to quickly edit this, shoot it out into the universe. You should see it on Spotify in the next couple hours. It's also on any other platform that you receive podcasts. It shows up on Apple's podcast app quicker than Spotify. There's a little bit of a delay for the Spotify. I need to get my stuff together because I'm going to New York on Wednesday. So I may work out today, eat a little bit of that food, maybe eat the apple that I got with that guy's, with the bag that I didn't get from that guy's cart. Maybe I'll eat that $2 apple before going to the Big Apple. So thanks again for tuning in. I'm going to end this live stream. Make sure you subscribe, like, comment, subscribe, do the dang thing if you may. Thank you again. And God bless you, whoever you are. Go to heaven. Peace.